Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's 3 minutes past 10, and I think we can start as we wait for others to join us. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for this webinar. We are really pleased that you could make some time to just spend some time with us, learn with us, and together we build community around adaptation and violence against women and girls prevention. I would like to thank SVRI for hosting this webinar with us, for always holding space for us to learn, to build community, and to further our work. I would also like to thank Lori and Laura, who are able to be with us. They've been instrumental in leading Adaptation Journeys and leading the collective that put Adaptation Journeys together. My name is Carol Shemeri. I'm going to be your moderator today. I am based in Uganda, Kampala. I work with Womanity as a senior program officer, and I was also part of the collective that put together Adaptation Journeys. So a warm welcome, everybody. As we start, I'd like to go through our housekeeping. We have some housekeeping rules. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are. Let us know where you're calling in from, where you're joining us from, and what you do. And perhaps you could even share a little bit about your adaptation work in the chat. So feel free to share your experience as we go along, whether you're sharing some experience of the work you have done or what you're doing right now. Please feel free to do that so that we can interact and learn from each other. Please stay muted to reduce background noise, and would love to see you. If you can switch your camera on, feel free to do that. We'd love to interact here. So moving on, we have, just to start us off, I'd like to give you an overview of what we're going to cover during this webinar. We shall have a walkthrough of the Adaptation Journeys microsite. This is the subject why we are here, the Adaptation Journeys. So we'll walk through the microsite and interact with it, and you get to know what it has to offer. Then we'll hear some voices from practice. We have women who have done this work, who are willing to share their experience, to share their wisdom with us today, and I'll be introducing them to you shortly. We shall also have a Q&A where we can answer your questions if you have any, but feel free to put those in the chat even already if you have some that you came with. Then we shall share some resources and upcoming events, and then we shall head on to closure. So I'd like us to start by setting the room, setting the environment for us. And we have a Menti. So go ahead and log on to menti.com. We have a code right there on the slide, and answer this question. What word do you associate with adaptation? Tell us what word you associate with adaptation. Go to menti.com and tell us that word. And then we shall have Paula share those results as they come in. And we have some answers coming through. Oh, we see bondage, we see flexibility, learning, resilience, change, alignment, curiosity, resilience, contextualization, and these all sound very good. We see hope. I love hope, negotiation. All right, okay. So yes, and this resonates a lot with me. Flexibility, resilience, these really speak to me, and I'm sure they speak to many of you. Okay, I'll keep those coming, and as we move on. Okay, so this is the microsite, Adaptation Journeys. I'll just give you a brief background about Adaptation Journeys. Adaptation Journeys is a web-based resource. It's a microsite. It was put together by a collective of people who are doing adaptation work. We have practitioners, we have researchers, we have funders who are passionate about this work and are doing it in different contexts, and they came together as a collective to put this resource out for the field, for us to learn, for us to experience, and to strengthen our work. So what is key actually is Adaptation Journeys was born at the 2024 SVRI Forum, where Womanity hosted an adaptation event called Adaptation Exchange. During this event, practitioners, funders, researchers came together to share their experience, to share strengths, to learn from each other, to share some of the resources they had put out about their work. So when all this conversation was going on, something really important happened. Connections developed in that room, and the group was willing to continue doing this work. They did not want to start, they did not want to have a one-off learning session, but they wanted to continue building community, connecting, learning together, and this is how Adaptation Journeys came to be. Womanity in 2025 reached out to the collective that was at the 2024 SVRI Forum during this event, and with the support of Laurie Mitchell, this collective came together, thought through of what could be important to the field without duplicating the efforts that already exist. And that's how Adaptation Journeys came to be. Adaptation Journeys was launched on March 24th. And today we have the pleasure to present it to you and take you through it. So it is a very interactive site. It's very exciting. It has quite intriguing features. As you can see, the red flags. So here, this is kind of the cover page of the microsite, and it tells us about adapting violence against women prevention programs across different contexts is rarely a straight path. And we all know that if we have done adaptation for a while. So right here, it tells us about Adaptation Journeys, shares real-world examples, and this is what it does. So if you continue scrolling all the way down, you'll find different flags. So there's a flag right here, and when you click onto it, you see pitfall number 1. So maybe what I haven't mentioned is Adaptation Journeys comprises of 8 pitfalls, where these practitioners, funders, and researchers share experiences on the common pitfalls they encountered during the adaptation journeys and how they overcame those. So when this pops up, you can click on Tell Me More, and then you'll see the learning. Why moving too fast too soon is a problem. And then you see the learning, take time to learn and build. Yeah. So then here you see Carol, there's the audios built into the site, and you'll hear voices of exactly what the learning was. And then when you scroll down, you'll see if you have any questions, there's an email to which you can post them. And here on the right, you'll see the logos of the different organizations who are involved in the adaptation and where this learning is coming from. If you continue, on your left, you can go to pitfall 8, which is the last pitfall. And then on your right, you can go to the next pitfall. If you click on that, then the next pitfall will show up, which is leading adaptation without community input. You'll see why it's a problem, and then you'll see what the learning is. If you scroll all the way down, find the same information, an email you can contact, and the logos of the organizations where this learning is coming from. So something else that we have that's key in Adaptation Journeys, you find tips and tools. So these tips, you see that we have different tips for funders. If you're a funder supporting adaptation out there, there's so much to learn here. We have tips for technical assistance providers, and we also have tips for practitioners who are on the forefront doing the work. We have some tips for researchers who continue to build our work. So if you go back, you'll find that we also have a discussion guide, which I'll go through right at the end. So, and some tools here, you'll find that we have some of the information in that Adaptation Journeys also comes from this, but these are resources you can learn from. We have some of the key resources, IPV, Adapt Plus framework. We have the prevention triage, and then we have this research from Womanity and GEH. So then let's look at signposts. There's some signposts built in the site, and what do these say? These are caution points. So you'll find caution points on how do you know when compromises for an adaptation have gone too far. And sometimes we do compromise when we're doing our work, but then there are times when it goes too far and our adaptation won't be a success. So there are caution points here that you can go through to see if this resonates or speaks to you, and to caution you and bring you back on the right track. Then we have speed bumps. Speed bumps, what does effective adaptation need to consider in complex times? And we all know we are working during complex times. There's shrinking funding space, there's backlash, we're losing our gain. So these speed bumps really, really very important. So you'll find a few here. Then when you go ahead, scroll down, you'll find green lights. So these are the soft skills that can shape a successful adaptation. So we have quite a number of them here as well. And then it can take you back to the tips and tools if you want, or you can go ahead and look at the discussion guide. So just a second, I want to take us through the discussion guide. So this discussion guide, I have to move us around. Okay, so Adaptation Journeys comes with a discussion guide to guide you as an organization or an individual. How can you use this resource to learn and to build capacity? So here we have the purpose of the guide, and here we have how it can be used. First, it can be used to reflect on your adaptation experience. It can be used to help you surface assumptions or weak spots, and it can also be used to help you identify practical ideas to avoid pitfalls and apply learning in your own adaptation. So the format here, how can you use adaptation journeys? You can either use it through a workshop where you bring a large group together and divide participants into smaller groups and assign each of them a different pitfall for discussion. Or you can have a session, short sessions with small groups where you can explore one pitfall at a time. Now, remember, we have tips and signposts. So that means you have to create some additional time, maybe 30 minutes. According to the discussion guide, 30 minutes is sufficient for you to go through the tips and the signposts. How do you prepare? When you're preparing to navigate or explore adaptation journeys, the guide, this guidance note also takes you through how you can do that. You can either select a pitfall, you can use a poll, all participants can pick, or you can decide to review them all if you're a large group, depending on how you want to do. So these are the steps you can use to discuss. And the first one will help you build a shared understanding, and there are instructions and questions to guide your discussion. There's even time suggested for you. You can take 20 minutes on this. You can go ahead and focus on the first pitfall. It will take you 10 minutes. There's some guiding questions here that you can ask. So really, really very helpful, very interactive to make sure that your team learns, you learn together, so that you can also have time to reflect on your own experience, on your own adaptation, and not just go through the pitfalls that are being surfaced by adaptation journeys. So yes, it is really a rich resource. It has everything that you need. All you have to do is navigate it right now and see whether it can be useful. And through this guidance note, you can also, these notes, you can also go back to the main site. It's kind of separate, but it can take you back to the adaptation journeys, to the main site. So yes, and I just now want to take us through the team that put this together. So I'll click here and we go back to the main site. Here, this is where you are. So that's what I was saying. You can, through that note, you can also go back to the site. So what we haven't seen now is the team that put this together. And here they are. So like I said, it's a collective of activists, practitioners, researchers, and funders from over 10 countries across Latin America, North America, Africa, Europe, and Southeast Asia. And together they're working on adaptation, violence against women prevention programs in different contexts, sharing their lived experiences and trying to build a community. We also have a definition of adaptation here, adapted from the ADAPT Plus framework. Then this is the team. We have Angelina here, we have me, we have Dora, and quite a number of them. Like I mentioned them, you'll see some of them on the call today. And then these are the organizations. And the site was built with love by this amazing team from Womanity. So we see Aparna, Shreya, and Vivan, who did a great job. So that is it about the site. Thank you very much. So if you have any comments on the site, any concerns, if you have navigated it and experienced it, you have something to share, please put that in the chat or use the emails that are built within the site. So thank you very much. We will now go back to Paula, because at this point in time, we are going to bring in our speakers for the day. Thank you. So yes, this is the main event. We have speakers who are going to share wisdom and knowledge with us on the adaptation work. And we have two of them in the room, and they are part of the collective that I was talking about. So first, we have Lizzie Adams from the Asia Foundation. Lizzie, wave to the audience. Yes, Lizzie has a lot of experience adopting programs in Southeast Asia, so we'll be hearing from her, and her bio has been placed in the chat, her full bio. So if you want to know about her, please go to the chat right now. Second, we have Angelina Chikanda from Center for Rights Education Awareness, Kenya. So Angelina, thank you so much for joining us to share your wisdom and experience. Please wave to the audience. Angelina's bio has also been placed right in the chat. So feel free to go there and get to know more about her. So Lizzie, I'm going to start with you. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us. So we know that you have been part of, you've supported quite a number of adaptations in Timor-Leste. We know you have worked on adaptation of stepping stones, and we know you have worked on adaptation of Bandebereho. So today, I'd like you to share with us, because we know that when you're adapting, sometimes things go as planned, sometimes they don't. Even when you have planned so well, you have an adaptation plan fully fledged in place. You have a context analysis, you have it all together. Sometimes things may not go as planned. So Lizzie, share with us what was a moment in your adaptation where things did not go as planned, if any, please.
Thanks so much, Carol. And maybe just a bit of background first. The Asia Foundation Nabilam program and our partner Hamnasa collaborated on this adaptation of Bandebereho. It's a gender transformative positive parenting program, and here it's called Aman Ba Mudansa, or Fathers for Change. So our plan was to do an adaptation and then a small process pilot with one cohort. And prior to beginning the work, we reached out and had conversations with Equimundo and Ramrek, the originators. They weren't involved in the actual adaptation, but did share their experiences and provided us with lots of useful documentation and linked us with others who had worked on the program. They were happy for us to go ahead with the adaptation and encouraged us to share learnings back with them, but there was no formal partnership per se. So then as a team, we went through a careful adaptation process, including a participatory run-through of the original curriculum, an adaptation workshop, theory of change and MEL framework development processes, as well as the adaptation of the actual curriculum sessions, and then a TOT. So once we got to the preparation for the pretest, we realized that the facilitation team needed more time to practice and build confidence, both to become comfortable with the dialogue style curriculum, as well as how to facilitate discussions in gender transformative ways. So our partner had had significant experience in GBV health sector response and community engagement. However, they were sort of more accustomed to socialization processes and approaches. And so the shift to this participatory, reflective curriculum that required facilitators to guide discussion rather than provide answers was sometimes challenging. So team members were also engaging with concepts such as gender norms and power and parenting and positive discipline in new ways, and at times could revert to some familiar like expert-led facilitation styles rather than the open-ended transformative approach that the methodology really required. So while this took a little time to get used to, the partner had this really strong desire to learn and was super open. We had a great relationship from previous engagements with the partner, as well as a preparation phase prior to the adaptation that included lots of foundational training which really built trust and buy-in, I guess. And once the facilitators had gone through the pre-test and really saw the difference a gender transformative participatory style had on participant engagement and group dynamics, they were really sold. And now they're like the biggest advocates of participatory facilitation and able to influence other program teams in their organisation to use these more participatory methods.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. I can see the plan was different. I can see the facilitators were used for a different way, and now they had to adapt, and it took a bit of time, and you had to make some, some trade-offs here and there. So, okay, now that leads us into our next question. Now that things didn't go as planned, so what are these major trade-offs that you needed to do for the adaptation to be successful?
So one of the trade-offs was definitely balancing the desire to kick off implementation and do rigorous testing with capacity strengthening and local ownership. For example, we invested in practice-based learning, including repeated curriculum run-throughs, facilitation practice sessions, mentoring, and as well as structured sort of feedback. So this is quite time-intensive for both our team and the partner organisation team as well. It really required more time than we had originally expected. And while a shorter preparation process would have maybe enabled a faster implementation start, we really felt facilitators needed time to not only learn the curriculum, but develop confidence with gender transformative approaches that were kind of new to them. And as both the partnership and the adaptation work was part of our broader NABULUM program, it was really just up to us to make that call for the sake of quality, whether we could use more time to do that. So we have long-term partnerships, a close accompaniment approach, which means we can be really flexible and adaptable to partner needs and changing timelines. So we're able to do that too, because we also have a donor who understands that this work takes time and also understands the importance of building sort of sustainable prevention capacity. So the pre-test phase, we decided that rather than observing only, our experienced facilitators would co-facilitate alongside the partner team. And this really allowed us to model participatory and gender transformative facilitation approaches, provide real-time support, and create additional opportunities for learning. The trade-off was that the testing didn't fully reflect the implementation conditions, but it really created a valuable sort of learning environment for facilitators and helped strengthen the implementation quality. And by the time we'd moved into the pilot phase, facilitators had gained enough confidence and experience for us to be able to step back and just observe. And this really helped us to be able to assess the intervention, how the intervention sort of functioned under more realistic implementation conditions, while also ensuring that they had received the support that they needed during the earlier stages of adaptation and testing. And this relationship really helped our team and the facilitators have a really strong bonded relationship that was supportive and enabled us to continue mentoring and capacity sharing between us and the partner.
Quite interesting. You mentioned quite a number of issues that are key to a successful adaptation. You mentioned partnership, you mentioned flexibility, you mentioned funders being flexible to allow the time that is required. So all these are key, and I see major trade-offs had to happen for the adaptation to be successful. So my key learning here is it's actually, yes, the trade-offs may happen. You may not go according to plan. You may do some trade-offs, but yeah, it all goes back. You'll still have quality. So at least it's possible that even with the trade-offs, you have quality. But I can imagine, Lizzie, making these trade-offs and all the partnerships that you had to navigate, because quite a number of people are involved in adaptation. I can imagine this wasn't easy. So, and that goes back to my question. My last question for you today is, how easy was this? How did you make these decisions to make sure that you bring everyone on the same page? How easy was it, and how did you make these decisions?
So as a partnership, we made the decisions collaboratively with the partner, with the facilitation team throughout the process. Rather than as the donor and the technical partner, rather than assuming that we knew what support was needed, we sort of just made sure to create regular opportunities for reflection and feedback so there could be a joint problem solving. And as all the different challenges emerged, we could discuss them openly with the facilitators and other partner staff, drawing on observations from our practice sessions, from the facilitator reflections, and also from participant feedback. So together we were considering what was working, where facilitators felt less confident, and what additional support might be needed to maintain this participatory, gender transformative nature of the intervention. And so these discussions really helped us all recognise that moving from, socialisation approaches to transformative facilitation takes more time. And together we were able to slow the process, provide additional practice and mentoring opportunities, and then gradually increase facilitator responsibility through this co-facilitation and ongoing support. So by making the decisions collectively, we're able to balance program quality with the local ownership and ensure that the adaptation responded to the realities and really met the needs of the facilitation team. And these types of collaborative decision-making processes are possible because we had real sort of values alignment with the partner. They were super committed to doing the work. They were new to the style of programming, but they really trusted us and trusted the process. This type of work is new to many in our context, and much of the violence against women work here focuses on socialisation and one-off trainings. And so when we start adaptation journeys with our partners, it's really a chance for everyone to learn new ways and different ways of working to address violence against women and children. We have a real strong focus on building primary prevention capacity, and we know we can't just give funds. We also need to provide technical accompaniment in a way that supports this sort of lasting change, right? And having a partner involved throughout the adaptation really helped to build skills in leadership, facilitation, and organisational growth, which can ensure sustainable impact on violence against women prevention.
Right. Thank you very much, Lizzie. Yeah, my key takeaway is you have to make the decisions collaboratively. That is the only way it works. And trust is important. So I guess you cannot get to a point where you make decisions collaboratively if you don't share values and you've not worked on building your trust with the team and the different partners. Thank you very much, Lizzie. We'd like to continue, but for now, let's move on to Angelina. So we bring in Angelina's perspective as well. Angelina, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on the call. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. So Angelina and Lizzie mentioned a little bit about quality. So Angelina, I would like us to speak about quality, and I know you have been at the forefront of adapting in the Shikira in Kenya, especially Meru. So tell us what helped you stay true to quality while adapting in the Shikira in Kenya.
Thank you so much, Carol. As you've heard, my name is Angelina from CRU, Kenya, Nairobi. Center for Rights, Education and Awareness. We are a women's rights organization who's very focused on about amplifying the needs and the rights for women and girls in our communities. So indeed, we did pick in the Shikira couples model, and which we adapted to our Kenyan context. And this was a model that originated from Rwanda, being implemented by Care International. And we learned through forums such as SVRI about how it was transforming lives in communities, and therefore we thought it would be a good fit within our context. But for us to be able to proceed and to make sure that we stay true to the quality, we made a decision that, having learned from these forums the importance of fidelity to models that you pick, then that was our main purpose, and said we must be able to maintain fidelity and retain the core principles of the methodology in our undertakings, and based on our own learnings, because previous to this, we had also adapted the SAST model to the Kenyan context, borrowing it from Raising Voices in Uganda, and therefore learned the importance of really being able to maintain that. And this was work that we had learned in 2014 to 2018. So in us picking the methodology, then we also needed experts to support our journey. And therefore we worked with the Prevention Collaboration, who were part of the team that was originally involved in the development and implementation of the methodology in Rwanda. And they helped us to understand this methodology, how does it work, who needs to be targeted, what are the pitfalls, what do we need to avoid. We also read through all the evaluation reports that have been written, be able to tell us how to successfully undertake this piece of work. And also in our process, therefore, as we started the adaptation, we were very careful to make sure we document what we were doing. Tracking what are we changing within the methodology, what is the reason, what is the impact that we are seeing these particular changes will be able to make, while maintaining still the core principles of the methodology. So we read a lot. We had to internalize each module, look at the scenes, look at the characters, the names, identify do they work in their context or not. So we changed some of the names. For example, we noted that, for example, in Rwanda, use of a bicycle is something common, but in the Kenyan context, a motorcycle would be more common. So you change the portrait that has a bicycle, and then you're putting in a motorcycle. And because this is an adaptation process, you're not sure of its impact, then you had to pick a very small team of couple to pressure test this adaptation process after we had completed, our whole process of changing, and to be able to look at it and ask the community to tell us, gauge, is this acceptable? Would this work within our context? And would it give us outcomes, if either similar or better than what we had seen happening in Rwanda? And also interest donors to be able to trust us with a small engagement that we pressure test this particular methodology and see whether it will work. And then from there, then we can also explore the issue around scaling. And so we also needed a team internally. So we also had to select people in an institution who are willing to learn something new, something you've never tested, something you've never done, and be able to engage in that journey of learning. So we actually took time, and we actually took about 2 years going through the methodology, listening a lot, learning, and being able to adapt it within the Kenyan context. They studied with about 15 couples in one of the wards in Meru, because we needed somewhere that had a proper, group of couples that would be sedentary, to be able to journey through a process of 22 weeks with us at pressure test the particular methodology that we were picking. They also had to tell us and get feedback from them. We had community facilitators with us, and they had to tell us what is the experience, one, as couples who are the beneficiaries of the program, but also the community members that we had picked to work with us to tell us how is the implementation, what is the journey they are seeing. We had to look through the couples that we're involving and check out, for example, what are the economic engagements that they're engaged with, so that you don't move them out of their comfort zone, but rather work with them in the communities and where they are staying, avoiding, for example, working with the nomadic communities, because we knew those would be moving and we did not have sufficient resources to move with them. We wanted to make sure that they have time to attend weekly sessions with us. We also had to talk to the leaders, because in our communities, leaders are very influential, to be able to understand what is going on here. Why are couples meeting so regularly in this particular space? What conversation are you having with them? What are you seeking to achieve at the end of the day? And so we use that. And so we would ask questions about what we were presenting to them, how they were feeling around it, what questions they had, what more do they need included. And so that whole process helped us to maintain the quality of the adaptation and made us to be able to have something that we were confident enough and say, let us now proceed to scale, and the confidence then to reach out to other donors to be able to support our journey to scale it up. So the more questions we asked, the more easy it was for us, the pathway to adaptation.
Oh, thank you so much. And the more learning and the more involvement. Oh, everybody, all the experts. Okay, thank you very much for sharing that. That was really detailed. And as you shared, you mentioned about the different community members that you involved, the different facilitators, the couples. So maybe just one point, could you just tell us on how, like specifically, intentionally, how did you ensure the adaptation involved community members? You have mentioned them along the way. So just specifically, how did you ensure that happens? Because sometimes they're just not involved at all, just in a minute.
Yes. So to involve the community members, one of the things that we had to do was go to the influential leaders of these communities. We had to identify people that we could work with. So CRU has had a history of working on ending violence against women in the particular locality where we were working in Meru. So we had formed the connections, we had the relationships with the leaders, we had relationship with community members, we had champions who had been supporting us with our work in the community. And so we picked them to be the persons that we journey together. And so we shared with them what our mission was, the methodology we wanted to bring, its objectives, what we wanted to achieve, what we have learned across the way in terms of the evaluation reports. So we're very open to and truthful to them to say, this is what we are looking at and this is what we want to do. And so included them in our journey of adaptation. So it took them through the process. They looked at the issues that we were looking at and they'd give us their own opinion about the same. And we also included persons who coordinate work around ending violence. And we ask them, we would like to test this, but in a small locality, so that they also don't feel like we've left out. And also to be able to explain why you're doing it in small scale. Why could you go big? So we explained to them and we journeyed with them in that process, so that at every process, we were learning together with them as we were doing the adaptation. Yes, we were taking lead, but they were also involved, telling us about what they think would work better within their context. So the pre-testing was done with community members. We used them as master facilitators for the sessions, and we documented the feedback that they gave us, so that we were able to also showcase and show what it is that was moving from where to what point. And so that is how the journey also led us to, for example, us adding a module. It was mentioned in the initial module around the issue of children and the effects of violence in their lives. But in this particular instance, they said, let's have it as a module of its own. So as opposed to in the Shikira, the original that has 21 sessions, the current one in Kenya, which we are calling Imarisha Mahusiano, has 22 sessions because of the learnings that we got from the community members. So involving everyone helped us in that journey of adaptation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And lastly, Angelina, just tell us to what extent the originators of Indashikira were involved and one or two lessons you got from that collaboration in 1 minute.
Yes, so in the beginning, the whole process, we definitely had to go back to the originators. So we reached out to CARE International in Rwanda, and they shared their insights, and they gave us a person who had journeyed the entire process of developing the model all the way to the end. We had conversation with them, and they told us suggestions on what needed to improve, the lessons they had learned, how the process had been for them. And in our own adaptation, we were lucky to work in an accompaniment program with Prevention Collaboration, who gave us 2 experts who had been part of that process altogether. And therefore, we worked with them on a process of mutual sharing and learning. So there was no power dynamics that we are the originators and you are the new people coming to the space, but rather it was about, this is how we did it. Would this work in your space? How do we adapt this in our context? And so it was a mutual relationship that helped us to be able to maintain fidelity of the methodology, develop frameworks that would help us to document our process and our journey together, the inputs that we needed, including our own staff members who would be able to participate in the program and be able to showcase what the results were telling us. And also as we journeyed through this process, always acknowledging the originators, because this was not our doing. This was not we did not develop it. And therefore, the originators who have been part and parcel of this process, and even with our results, we've been sharing with them back on what that experience is doing in our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angelina. Colleagues, you have had so much wisdom, so much experience, so much to share, but we have limited time. We won't be able to go through with it. But what you can do is visit Adaptation Journeys microsite. There are emails right there. These ladies who have shared with us have put their experiences right there. You can reach them on the emails provided there. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. So right now, I'd like to see if we have any questions for you before we move on to our next agenda point. But I don't think we do. Paula, do we have any questions?
Yes, from Melissa in the chat. Perhaps I can read it.
Yes, please.
She shared that we hear a lot of eagerness in several contexts to get to scaling quickly. We suggest carefully testing and piloting, evaluating that to see what is working well or not, and if aims are being met before seeking to take anything to scale too quickly. Curious to hear your experiences and views.
Okay, so thank you very much, Paula. We'll start with Angelina. Angelina, we are going to use 1 minute to answer this question. So Angelina, you have 30 seconds and Liz will have 30 seconds. So Angelina, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you for that question. Yes, we agree with you. You need to take time. Don't be in a hurry to pick up a methodology and implement in your context. It might fail very quickly. But once you have buy-in and you have confidence from the community, then you can proceed. So it is important to take time to learn the methodology before rollout. Don't be in a hurry. In Africa, we say there's no hurry in Africa. So that's the way. Thank you.
Yes. All right, Lizzie, please share some of your experience around that.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we actually really considering this a lot because we've adapted a few different methodologies and none of them have been taken to scale yet. The biggest scale that we've achieved is now the program that I was just talking about, Aman Bamdansa, is being implemented by 3 small CSOs. And these small CSOs, they've got limited funding, they've got small teams. And so we're all thinking together about how best to go to scale. But the most important thing for us was to make sure that the implementation quality is really high and that we can do an impact evaluation so that we can really test and see should we be going to scale and then how. Yeah. So thanks for the question.
All right. Thank you very much. In fact, if you go to Adaptation Journeys, you will find the first pitfall, I think, is about rushing. Don't rush. So, yeah. Thank you very much, ladies. It was a pleasure to have you. So now, if you have any more questions, keep them coming. The emails are in Adaptation Journeys. We'll get to you. We can continue to learn together. So now let's go back to now we go to share some resources. So Paula, please. Okay, so here we are. So as you all know, the SVRI Forum is upon us and it will be in October. So as part of the conference, Womanity and What Works, Prevention Collaborative, and University of San Diego Center on Gender Equity and Health and Raising Voices are planned for you a beautiful pre-conference workshop titled Meeting the Moment, Ethical and Effective Adaptation for Vulgy Prevention Scale in Challenging Times. The pre-conference workshop will be on October 5th. The venue will definitely be confirmed, but please do not miss out on this wonderful opportunity to continue to learn, to build around adaptation of vulgy prevention programs. We also have a guide to adapting gender-based violence prevention programs in Southeast Asia coming up. It's being brought to us by the Prevention Collaborative and UNFPA Asia Pacific. It will be coming. It is in final stages, so it will be released anytime soon. Please be on the lookout. So now I will invite Paula to share something about the SVRI Forum.
Thank you so much, Carol. And yes, please do check out their pre-conference workshop that is part of the SVRI Forum 2026. I've shared that in the chat. And a bit more about the conference as a whole. So the SVRI Forum is the flagship event of the SVRI, the Sexual Violence Research Initiative. And it is the world's leading abstract-driven conference on research, evidence, and solutions to prevent and respond to violence against women and violence against children and other forms of gender-based violence. So it really is a phenomenal gathering of people, and we'll all be getting together in the Centauro Grand Hotel, Bangkok Convention Center in Bangkok, Thailand. And that'll be from the 5th to the 9th of October, 2026. And we really would so like to welcome you in person. And while there is a lot I could share on the forum, I am conscious of time. So I will share some other relevant links for you in the chat. But yes, there's a multitude of ways to participate, from having an exhibition booth or hosting your very own participant-driven events, as well as attending some of the pre-conference workshops that Carol spoke about earlier. And yes, it's just a fantastic gathering to share evidence and also to be with your colleagues who are also sharing evidence to prevent violence against women and children. So please do join us. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at forums@svri.org. We're here to answer any and all questions. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you so much, Paula, for that. And just to let the audience know that I'll be at the SVRI Forum. So please be there. Let's connect, let's meet up, let's learn together. Yes, so will Lizzie. Lizzie will also be at the SVRI Forum. So please, let's register, let's take part in this very interesting forum that has taught us so much in the past. Okay, so now I'd like to go to the next slide, please, where I will to welcome all of you to contribute to Adaptation Journeys. As you can see, Adaptation Journeys is a living microsite. It's a living document. We want to continue to build it. We want to continue to put in some more experiences right there. So please connect, share your stories on adaptation, share your learning, share what you're encountering, what you're experiencing right now, because our intention is to build community. And we can only build our community if we are putting our experiences out there and learning together. We realize that so many organizations are working on adaptation, but many of us have been working in silos. So the idea is to build our community, start working together, and have some shared learning experiences. Not just this webinar, but many more, and also put some resources together. So I'd like to call upon you also to expand the site by sharing your adaptation challenges and how you have overcome this. So do not hesitate to navigate the site, explore the site, and to reach out. Also, I would like to thank, I would like to thank all the participants who are on the call, but I also in a special way want to thank the participants who are part of the collective that put together Adaptation Journeys. I've seen some on the call. Thank you so much for joining us, and feel free to share your experiences in the chat. Okay, so we have come to the end. We are near the end of this wonderful webinar. I'd like to thank our speakers for making time to speak to us, for sharing so much in such little time, but so much knowledge. And I hope you have taken notes, you have learned a lot, and you can reach out to them directly if you'd like to learn more. Yes, and Adaptation Journeys is one way you can reach out to them, because their emails are there, their contacts are there, and they have shared their experiences right there. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for joining, for taking the time, for sharing with us. I don't know, Paula, if you have any last minute comments or questions that we have to air out before we close.
I think we can just allow if anyone has a last question or two, but
yes.
Otherwise I think you've covered everything.
Yes, we have a bit of time, so feel free if you want to share your experience. You can even unmute and share your experience. We have a bit of time in 2 minutes before we close. Other than that, this has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. And I've had the pleasure to moderate this session. So it's been really wonderful, and have learned a lot. So I see no comments are coming through. So I guess we can bring it to a close. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time. I wish you a good rest of the day. For those who are in your morning, enjoy the rest of your morning. Those in the afternoon, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And those who are nearing the evening, like Lizzie, enjoy the rest as you descend into the night. So thank you very much. A special thanks to SVRI for co-hosting this webinar, for always holding space out for us. And of course, to Womanity that took the leadership in putting Adaptation Journeys together, to the NICE collective, the good people who shared their experiences, who shared their lessons, and who continue to share and build the community of adaptation of violence against women and girls prevention programming. Thank you so much. Bye.